Hello, hello. How is everybody doing? Coming to you live from Canton, Ohio, upwind from Railbot disaster. Doing good on a Friday night. How's everybody else doing? Glad you're here. Hey, all right. Thanks for giving me 2 weeks off, everybody. I went away and enjoyed myself with the family and decided to do some rearranging in the office here and wasn't quite ready. Cool. So now, anyway, hey, I'm Aaron Archer from the Toy Armada podcast on YouTube, and I'm a former toy designer at Kenner Hasbro, Batman, Transformers, G.I. Joe, a lot of different things. And so now I've rearranged my office kind of to reflect the toys that I made and kind of my hoop-de-doos around being part of a cool brand. And got my Transformer books out here so we can pull them out as needed. And I'll probably move the decorative stuff over here now. Different things I worked on or not. So, and I got rid of the mystery picture. We'll bring that back at a later date, I guess. So anyway, so thanks for coming back after a few weeks. We got some good people in here already. We got Ninjatron, Van Hope. How you doing? Cheesier, Princeton Phalanx 59. How's everybody doing? Megatron Fangirl, how are you? So yeah, I don't really have a firm topic, but it's been an exciting week or two with the news of or how the news really blew up about Armada Optimus Prime. So I suppose we could talk a little bit about that, but don't really have anything major to talk about tonight other than I am trying to do the March of Robots daily drawing. I'm posting those on my Instagram, ArcherMonster_creative. I don't know if I'm going to do it daily. I really don't have the time to quite finish a thing off daily. But what I am going to get done will be the basis of the second sketchbook. So check out the Instagram, and the links are in the bio, and keep an eye out on how that all works out. I am taking kind of requests of characters from the Armada era. Be fun for me to draw different stuff other than the ones maybe I think are cool. I have learned that drawing Cyclonus is terrible. He is great from a toy standpoint with his silhouettes, but man, he's got a lot of stuff hanging off of him and all these big surfaces going every direction. And wow, what a pain in the ass to draw. So that is what I'm learning tonight, actually. So, hello, Dan. Now, is that Leader 1 from GoBots or Leader 1 from Armada? I get a lot of requests sometimes on the sketchbooks where people want to have me draw a character and they'll just put Starscream or, Soundwave. And as we all know, there's a lot of different interpretations of those guys. And I always dread that I'm going to draw the wrong one. Everybody has their favorite. So, gets a little dicey sometimes where I'm going to guess. I guess I can't ever go wrong with G1. So that's usually what happens. What's everybody got on their mind? I saw a question at the very beginning with Mr. Survive Fan 23 Studios. Did I have that right? About Dirt Boss, and that's a good one. Cybertron Dirt Boss. That is a good one. I don't talk about a lot, and he does have an somewhat interesting story. Because I'll just start with that one. Let's see. Where is that book? Let's pull up a picture of it if we have it. And I should. Nope. Oh man, ill prepared. All right, ill prepared. So Dirt Boss was a attempt to finally do a monster truck, which are always difficult because they take up a unique amount of space underneath the vehicle and above the vehicle, and the wheels need to be fairly big to make them look cool. And that means a lot of the plastic is going into the wheels, which is always dangerous and tricky to make it fit in a package and reasonable. I think if you look at Energon Ironhide, kind of difficult, to balance everything out. So that was an attempt. We really wanted to try different forms, and we didn't have a monster truck that was successful. And if you see in the brand, there's really been a few little mini-cons and smaller scaled ones, not too many larger scaled ones. So that was our closest attempt to try to test it out, to do the best with it. But that's where it is. So I hope that answers kind of the backstory on that. Okay. Yeah, I do art every day. Like I said, I'm actually doing Cyclonus right now. I draw every day. I try to make stuff, so I always have stuff available if people are interested. Kind of just stacks up. Here's where that thing ended up. I kind of haven't quite finished it, but that was the live a couple weeks ago. That'll be in the sketchbook. This will be tomorrow's Instagram post. So sneak peek on that one. This was the call to action today. So yeah, I'm drawing every day, and drawing marker and Posca pens, and I really don't do much digitally. I'm old school. All right, so I got to read a few of these, so give me a minute. Yeah, that's a big scavenger out there. Everything's available on my website that I currently have up anyway. Archermonster.com. Yeah, Legacy Cyclonus would be very cool. Master Ben 95. I saw a redeco, a custom kind of maybe digital redeco online of, I think, a movie Cyclonus, which was pretty cool, using the helicopter. Transfan 1988. That's a little specific. I don't remember. Hey Shane, how you doing? I did not design any of the Play School GoBots. guy named Ed Duncan did those with Takara. We would share some dinners and stuff. So back then the line was kind of split, and they were doing, what they needed to do for that market. So no, I didn't have a lot of contact with that. Yeah, Dan, let's talk about that. The Hot Shot now, Starscream. I guess Override doesn't really have a minicon. Optimus now have not come with their minicons. So it's strange to me, although I can look at it practically. That extra figure is a kind of a pain. It will limit the redeco opportunities potentially of how they design these things. So I can see where it wouldn't be part of the singular characters anymore. But I'm really hoping that they just make a minicon pack or something, or that the Megatron comes with all the minicons. It seems odd. And there's the cat. Seems odd that they don't have them at all. And I can't imagine that the Micromaster stuff and Headmaster stuff from a few years ago was so terrible. I mean, micro Transformers always kind of have their own unique good spot. So sales-wise, interest-wise, it's a lower price point. So it is difficult for me to understand why they don't have minicons somewhere coming out. But I'm holding out that they will. It seems odd that they don't. So there you go. Armada Megatron toys. Oh boy, that's a good one. Armada Megatron toys. We were in a spot where we were selling miniature Transformers in minicons, right? And we really didn't want those to be given away at a quick serve restaurant. So we really limited them on what they could do from a transformation standpoint. And they wanted this extra feature of some sort, a pullback or, whatever. And our big request was the minicon port in the end. That was the big concern for us, to let's connect it somehow. But it was strange because I don't think we were prepared to know how to do that perfectly. So that's my recollection of it. And it's very limited parts, limited decoration. So very strange to work on those compared to anything else. Logan Wood with the $5 super chat. Thank you. I wanted to ask a long debated question on whether or not the Keaton head sculpt was created for the Batman Forever line figures, since figures were prepped early. My understanding is that they did change that head sculpt, but that's what they would have used as a mold proxy until something got approved and stepped in. So there goes my black sweatshirt. So that is my recollection of it. And that happens a lot, where if it's an ongoing line with ongoing types of figures, so between Armada and Energon, it happened. In Batman figures, it definitely happened as the actors changed out every movie. The bodies might not change, but the heads would. And if the heads weren't ready, you'd use the old guy's head because it's kind of Batman. So those back then, and I respect to all my sculpting brothers out there, ancestors, the conditions that they were molded in back then, it looked like they were sculpted in butter. So it really didn't matter how close it was to the actor. It's not until we get to scans and tighter molding, better than pantograph kind of situations, where they're digitally cutting steel, that you could really tell that, oh my God, that's a different actor altogether, or that it even mattered. Again, we're talking the kid world back then, so we weren't really so hard and fast about that. Kind of good question. Thank you for a Batman question. Not that I don't love my Transformer questions, but I'm always excited to share Batman toy knowledge too. There's not a lot of that out there, so. I discovered if you have any old Cyberplanet keys and Legacy Override. No. I don't have a lot of the products I worked on. You just don't have room for them. Open products just get rattled to death as you move and stuff. Kids come and whatever. What you see back here is some of the stuff. I got more stuff than this, but not anything near like what I would have had, or anything like what you guys consider yourself as collectors. I have my giant book collection here and over here, so that's kind of where I spend a lot of my time and kind of collection, I guess. So what else we got? Love for the Happy Meal toys, huh? Mr. Survive Fan 23 Studios. Any stories on the giant planet guys, Metroplex, Quick Mix, and Menosaur? Well, those were all designed by Eric Siebenahler. They were interesting to do, being big. We wanted them to be big characters, so they're really unique. I think those are very unique toys, from how they look and how they transform. I really wish I had a Menosaur. I like that design. I don't know what else to say, but I really was proud to get something unique or different into the story. That's when we were starting all this kind of, idea of Transformer worlds and different types of Transformers, obviously, this Velocitron and whatnot. And to have a giant planet to kind of represent those huge Transformers that we would hope to get to. And then a few years later, after I got left, they did get to. So it's kind of fun. Very strange, though, that they have remade Metroplex to me, but I just don't know why they chose that one, but they honored it very well. It's nice, but there you go. What size a new tidal wave should be? I don't know the sizes completely. I'd like it to be as big as possible. Ideally, 3 separate robots that transform together into that would be cool, but it would have to be pretty big for me to be satisfied. I mean, tidal wave is, huge by true scale. So I don't know if they could really do it. I really don't know. I mean, I'd want it to be 24 inches tall, something pretty wild, or higher or bigger with stuff hanging off. Claudio, that is a good question. Was it Takara's decision to make Galaxy Force unconnected to the previous 2 series, or was it a decision by Animation Studio? In how Takara handled the series was completely different, and kind of we built in this because of dub opportunity that we could go in slightly different directions. We weren't trying to always translate the show one for one. So oh my gosh, you guys are moving so fast. Sorry. So they had the attitude that it was 3 kind of separate series. Hasbro had more of the attitude that it was one somewhat continuity, or that we tried. as they changed animation studios, those old animation studios didn't know that. We got different people to work with us on the dubs, and then we ended up, kind of changing voices and adding accents and all that stuff. So we didn't do our job either to make it a continuity, and then we put the little rap scene at the end. That was completely on the Hasbro side. We paid for that. But, I don't know how successful that was. Looking back, probably not as successful as it or planned as it could have been or should have been. Hope that answers that, Claudio. Good to see you. Okay, Dan, that's a good question. At TF Nation a few years ago, I said that toys couldn't be reissued as the old molds weren't compatible with current machinery. What molds were available but couldn't be made? Well, I do know on the G.I. Joe side that's what happened to all the classic G.I. Joe vehicles. They were run on kind of much bigger machines. Much more industrial size machines, things that you are going to really make millions of something. Think of a car industry more. Now they're smaller molds, they run faster, and they're more digital, and they're operated with robots that can move all this stuff faster. Before it was with forklifts and guys with pulleys and stuff. So just anything from the 80s, 70s is probably too big in most cases, and they'll get remolded into the smaller molds. So that's kind of a good example. If you have your own factories, you can do whatever you want. So I will say that a lot of Japan molds are smaller. They were smaller. They didn't have steel to waste. So kind of different situation with Transformers. And that's why a lot of the 70s Transformer molds, Diaclone, they're kind of long since gone. They've been remolded and things to keep that going. I'm pretty sure I was around when the Seeker mold jet died. I was around when the Microman cassette helicopter mold was unavailable. There were some cassette tapes that turned into motorcycles in Microman. I was around when those molds were unavailable. Bendy Prime on Armada, we killed those molds. What happens is they just wear down, and you have to recast by the standards that Hasbro keeps and Takara would keep, any quality company anywhere would keep. They just don't last forever. So, and the conditions on how fast you use them, how hot you get them, in some cases the type of plastic you might be using can all wear them down. They get hot, they start to melt, and pieces chip off and different things. So there you go, Dan. Yeah, I agree. Tidal Wave needs to be tall, Ninja. Tidal Wave could be one big ship, I guess, that transforms into the big robot. You wouldn't have to fuss with the three necessarily. What I think they could bring to the party if they wanted to would be 3 vehicles with robot modes that form a big guy, because the Tidal Wave suffers or is unique, I would say, is that it's one of the few Transformers that have 3 sections that don't have robot modes that transform to become a robot and a vehicle, and then individually 3 vehicles. There's nothing, not that I'm aware of easily as prominently as that one. So that's unique, that those 3 molds wouldn't have robot modes, but because of the Minicon feature and gimmick that we were going for, that's what we traded off, and the condition made that happen. I don't know if that would happen in under other types of conditions. So Diago Souza, there you go. That's what I think about that one. Overall, Transformer articulation comes out based on plastic weight and just form hiding. And there's ways to make them more complex and less complex pretty easily. So we didn't really have a minimum articulation. It was more like each price point kind of allowed other levels or techniques to be kind of unveiled. So that's how that was handled. And then that minimum articulation is derived from that. If you have more pieces, it's going to be better articulated, kind of thing. If molds are bigger because they're higher priced, So yeah, Bendy Prime mold. I think they redid that one too. I could be wrong. Oh man, Andy, good luck. Good luck with that. Hope your house isn't cold as well. That would stink. Stay warm. Yeah, the fact. I mean that's the problem with toy scale. Tidal Wave just has to be too big. I don't know if it's a character. I mean, I guess at this point, I'm maybe tired of downplaying Armada or apologizing for Armada. I mean, he is a dominant character in that series and probably one of the biggest in the series, if not the biggest after Unicron. So he's got to be at least as big as the $600 Unicron. What up, robot people? I don't know the answer to that one, Mr. Survive Fan. On the Energon toys, wire scavenger and sideways from Armada shown on the boxes instead of the toy itself. Not really sure. There you go, Ninjatron. I knew you'd have the answer if I talked some crap. There you go. But not too many of them. I mean, it's a unique thing in Transformers. It is true in other convertible robotic vehicle brands. Pick Gundam under that, or Macross rather. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. Ooh. All right. All right. Well, we're halfway through. You're watching the Toy Armada live with Aaron Archer. I am Aaron Archer, former Kenner Hasbro toy designer, Batman, Transformers, stuff like that. Did it for 18 plus years, still doing it, but 18 plus years at Hasbro Kenner. And I like to explain the process a little bit so that it's not such a mystery as to why things happen the way they kind of happen. Not so much to spill the tea, but to kind of give a different perspective as to why manufacturing things go the way they go. So here we are. Thank you for coming tonight. Got a fair amount of us. Thanks for that. Check out the other videos on the Toy Armada, and check me out on Instagram, ArcherMonster_creative. And let's keep talking. Spill the tea. Yeah, what's next? What's the next set of spills that we're going to give? Any thoughts on the built to rule Transformers? Just another. Toy companies try things all the time, and that was just an early attempt to do bricks and to leverage, the big brands at the time that they were putting effort behind with a cartoon and things. So they wanted to do Armada. So, it was only as successful as those ideas. The styling couldn't help or hurt any of it. So unfortunately, it didn't work out. But that's my thoughts. Hello, Draconomus. What are your thoughts on the Transformer comic or animated series that retells or expands upon the themes that Armada introduces? Well, here's what I think. I spent a lot of my time in my connections with the brand to try to not have as many loose ideas or focus the ideas. When I came in, we were still debating, what the key to Vector Sigma was, or what's the well of the Allspark. It was kind of still, the idea of a spark wasn't a kind of concept that had retrograded back to the G1 characters, right? Things were still a little more delineated, Beast Wars era, G1 era. I kind of came in and was picking the logic trail out of both of those, like as if these were a race of characters and or beings, and they had a long history. And so long story short, I could talk about that all night. The purpose of all of that is to set up a tray, or whatever metaphor you want to use, of opportunity, of ideas that could be used tactically when needed, as needed, rather than it always being one thing, or a lot of loose ideas that just come and go, and it's just a lot of kind of confusion. So I am happy that anything that I kind of tried to bring some focus to or logic to within the brand lives on. So I love when the stories get added to. I love when the idea of mini cons keeps going, things like that. Because that's the point. I wasn't just a toy designer. I was trying to bring more than a after school cartoon logic and a whole host of in and out kind of stuff that was unsure. So there you go. All right. Thanks for that question. That's a good question. All right, Chris, were all the Cybertron characters designed as being the same character as the Armada? No. The characters were not necessarily always going to be the next characters from Armada to Energon to Cybertron. That came at different points and different logic trails. Like I say, as we found success with Armada, we kind of had to pivot and adjust some of the products to either continue or realize we were not going to continue certain characters. So, and it wasn't planned, and we were changing animation companies. So it wasn't as cohesive of a plan, unfortunately. And I think you bring that question up. Sometimes we would change the heads to look like the Armada guy's head and use the same name. Sometimes we'd use the same head and not have the name. Sometimes it kind of feel like the same character, but it's got a new name, so, I think it was just the growing pains of how that co-development was working, and a bunch of new people in Rhode Island trying to make it all happen. Unfortunately, it didn't always land. Universe Hotshot was cool too. And happy that any of the characters that I ushered in or nurtured, whatever. I hesitate to say created. I named a lot of them. I definitely designed elements of them, the veneering of them, but there's designers in Takara and painters and stuff. So but anyway, but I'm always happy when a character that I had a big part of, like Hotshot, comes out in any form. So Universal Hotshot was one of the first Armada era characters to come back, excluding that Megatron Redeco tank thing. But so yeah, I'm gonna like them all. You're gonna be hard pressed to have me bringing much hate towards any of it. I know how hard it is. I again made decisions on these characters during my long tenure there, so that they could live on with purpose, and the fact that they do is exciting, and so I'm gonna like most of it. Yeah, well, the Draconis, sorry if I'm pronouncing that wrong. The Transformers media is rich if you want to go down different rabbit holes. You can stop at the toy bio, you can watch a couple shows, all the shows. There's definitely rich comic books, but then there's deep fan fiction and behind the scenes material out there on some of the series. So the media does give a lot of enrichment and depth if you want to find it there. Yeah. And that's what, some people are really into the whole robot war and the relationships between all of them and all that, which is what we were trying to do with the aligned continuity, again, which plays into a little bit of how I wanted to bring cohesion to a lot of fragments that just were random things from different series, both in toy and animation and from comic books like the 13, things like this. Do you remember any particular designs that were retroactively given an existing character's head? A couple times, I can't really recall off the top of my head. Takara would put some sort of honorific head on there that I might not have noticed. And that didn't bother me either. So whatever. That's kind of how that one rolled. Again, some of that stuff just happens so fast. It just in Transformers. I don't want to be dismissive, but a lot of them are just robot heads. We try to make them cool, somewhat unique. Bug eyes or goggles or breathers or squid heads or all kinds of different guys that look like they're armored up or have tactical goggles on. But they're robot heads, so sometimes whatever Takara wants to put on them is fine. Not everything's overly designed, at least during my era. It was kind of open at times. Are shell formers a budget thing, or I have absolutely no idea how I'm gonna work this thing works thing? Well, shell formers, depending on where you draw the line on what's a shell former. It's often a toy feature thing and or a form factor thing. So boats tend to be shell formers, right? If I'm thinking of them right. So sometimes it's a different feature. I'm also thinking of the Pretenders. I kind of think of them as shell formers, but it's a little bit different for y'all how you think of them. It's I think of the boat from, I guess, Cybertron, the female robot boat. She's a shell farmer, right? Um, it's kind of a way to bring out one particular form in a robot quickly. Just get a bunch of parts out of the way, and you can kind of get a articulated robot that's just sitting in there. Yeah, Thunderclash. Is that her name? That's how that kind of happens. It's not really a budget thing. It's kind of like, how are we going to get this feature to work or this form to work? And it just kind of ends up that way. Oh yeah, we did a lot of Thunders. You know, here's the other thing with Transformers that I can't figure out is how we all tolerate so many SS kind of names, you know, or Starscream, Shockwave, Soundwave. You know, it goes on and on. There's just endless. They really dug those in the 80s, I guess. Thunderblast. All right, sorry. I started a conflict I didn't know I was going to start. Sorry. And you got to apologize. I got to apologize because even though I designed a lot of these and nurtured them and put them into the story, that day happened and on to the next thing. And we were running a marathon every day, all day. Sometimes names wouldn't be finalized till later, and deco would be later. And, we would, by the time things would come out, they're very different than maybe how we talked about them the 12 months prior, right? So I apologize at times. I don't know the names of the toys that I worked on. But you can imagine that there's hundreds of names, working names and names that changed, and then the final names. It gets a little, it kind of mushes the brain, to be honest with you, after a number of years. Was there a lot of how do we do this when you guys got to design for the 07 movie? Hey, that's a good question, Cheesier. There was a little bit of concern about how to take the realistic forms of licensed vehicles and honor that and get those approved and have a robot that was could come out of that, right? That there was no fudging. And that is a lot of what I spent on my early trips to the Bay Studios, Bay Films, and in the art department, trying to really get a handle with them on that aspect, trying to get the idea that they are not mass shifting, that what is inside of them, you know, whatever they're made out of, some unique, you know, molecular thing that they decide to look like a car, but when they transform, they can convert all of that to this other form, but it has to be the same size, a reasonable facsimile that of the size, and no funny stuff. And that was a big focus, so that we would get robots that could actually be made. And then I worked with the designers to not do things we couldn't do, you know, put like all four wheels together, things like that. Think of the transformation nonsense needed to make all four wheels together, or in the knees or in the middle of the shoulders. It's very wackadoo to try to do that. So anyway, yes, Kat is here. Jiro, hello. Did the Human Alliance line kill Alternators? No. Alternators, we haven't got to the Alternators Part 2 yet, but in the long form Toy Armada videos, but Alternators died for a few reasons. It was higher priced. The movies did bring in the realism. Alternators came out because there wasn't a licensed option outside of the classic reissue G1 product. So Alternators offered the consumer the ability to have licensed vehicles, where otherwise everything was going to be animation Unicron trilogy based, right? So as the movie came in and had then licensed vehicles that we were paying a nice royalty on. Oh no, the power might be going. That's not good.